Hi, so I'm making this video because all over the internet I'm seeing oversaturation of the Olympus stylus. Everyone's like, get the Olympus stylus, and everyone is recommending it. And I would like to show you that there's other cameras on the market that's just as good. So I'm making this to show you one of my favorite cameras that I think gets the design of the Olympus and functions the same way and has the same quality. This is the Nikon Lite Touch Zoom 120 EDAF. Now personally, I love this camera. It's great for taking along wherever you go, getting a slice of life pictures. You can also use it as a secondary camera, backup camera. Recently I took this wherever I went for a whole month. Took example photos using the flash, without the flash, different focusing distances. I'm going to have those examples at the end of the video. And since I don't see this camera often online, I'm actually going to go over everything. So if you've never heard of this camera, you'll get all the information you need from this video. We're going to go over the specs, we're going to go over how it functions, how to operate it, and obviously you're going to see those example pictures at the end, and I'm going to have a little review. So let's start this video with the specs. So before we get really deep into the specs, let's dissect the name a little bit. So it's a Zoom 120 EDAF. It's a zoom camera, so it covers the focal length from 38 millimeters all the way out to 120, and it has an f-stop range of 5.3 to 10. The ED stands for extra low dispersion glass, and this is a premium glass Nikon was using at the time, and it's used to lower the chromatic aberrations. And then AF is for autofocus, so it could focus on anything from 2.5 feet to infinity. It has a anti-fog viewfinder, and one thing to note is the ISO read from the roll, so it only shoots at box speed, and this ranges from 50 all the way to 3,200 depending on the roll you put in. But it's going to read it off the roll, so you can't push or pull your film. So for the battery, there's a compartment right at the bottom here. There's a little door here, you open that up, and in it, it takes a CR123A battery, which is a little chunky battery. It's right here. The manual states that the battery life's about 12 rolls of film at 24 exposures, with the flash being used for half of those exposures. And there's also a little battery indicator that will show on the LCD screen. The overall weight of the camera is 7.4 ounces. So now I'm going to go with the tutorial. So to turn on the camera, very simple. You're going to open the door, lens is going to come out, and you're ready to rock. To turn it off, you're going to close the door. It's going to retract the lens, and then you're going to bring the door completely shut. One thing to note, when the camera's on, the flash does stay up, and there's no way to put it down. I think I like the aesthetic of having the flash up, but some people might not, but that is one characteristic. Loading is pretty simple. First you pick your film stock you want to use. Nikon recommends ISO 400. Open up the back of the camera, place your film in, with the tip of the film all the way to the end near the red indicator, and then you close the back. The LCD screen will show your current exposures and selected settings. When loading the film, the LCD screen must display 1, and an E means that the film was improperly loaded. E also would mean empty if there was no film inside. The shutter button is located on the top with a gold ring around it. To take a picture, you're going to start by taking the shutter button, holding it halfway down. That's going to establish your exposure and your focus. Now, if your subject is off of the center, you want to establish your exposure and focus with the subject in the center. Keep your shutter half depressed and move the camera and recompose. While keeping that shutter half depressed, you then fully depress, and it's going to keep the focus and exposure of the subject that you locked in. As for the viewfinder, there is a small rectangle and then a larger rectangle. The smaller rectangle is the zone where you're going to focus and set your exposure, and the long rectangle is your parallax marks, and this is going to be used when you're taking photos at 2.5 feet. And you just make sure your image is composed in that larger rectangle. When you press the shutter halfway down, there's 2 LED indicators to the right of the viewfinder. And the one will light up green and the one will light up orange. If the orange lights up, it means that the flash is going to be used. If it doesn't light up, the flash will not be used. And then for the green indicator, if it's a solid green, it means that the focus was established. And if it's blinking, it means that it couldn't establish the focus and you gotta recompose your image. When you use all 36 exposures, the number on your camera will say 36 on the LCD screen. And then once it hits 36, it's gonna automatically rewind your film, and then it's safe to take out the film. And it's going to count down from 36 all the way down to E. For any reason, if you have to manually rewind your film, there is a button that you can press with the end of a paper clip. I'm just going to go over the different settings. We have panorama mode, and the camera will help you create a panorama shot. The auto flash will automatically set your flash if there's not enough light or the subject is backlit. The symbol with the mountain and no flash is shooting the landscape, and it won't use a flash. Lightning bolt with the cross out means no flash. Lightning bolt means the flash will always go off. And then the auto slow with the lightning bolt means that it will brighten the subject and the background at dusk or at night. Then for the buttons on the top, there's the red eye, which will reduce the red eye in your photo, and then the self timer, which the red eye will always be turned on. And the self timer, the light will blink for 8 seconds, and then the solid light for 2 seconds. So you have an overall of 10 seconds to do your thing. You can also imprint by pressing the mode button on the top, and you can set your date and time, and the hammer will imprint on each exposure. There are 3 formats that the camera will imprint, like switching up the day, month, and year. If the LCD says print, it will imprint on the exposures, and if the LCD shows 3 dashes, the camera will not make an imprint. I also want to go over the zoom feature. There's 2 buttons on the back, one to zoom out and one to zoom in. And it is kind of loud, and the lens does come out a bit, so this is how far the lens comes out. So now I'm going to show you some example photos. Now, since we're using a film camera, I'm not going to really go over the grain structure, color, anything that has to do with the film, because that doesn't have to do with the camera. We're going to go over the sharpness, we're going to go over the focus, flash, how it determines the flash, when it uses the flash, and that's going to be the main focus for these example pictures. I'll also go over how it handles camera shake, so it's choosing the right settings, so it's not creating a shutter speed that's too slow that's going to create shake. The photos you're about to see have not been edited. They're the exact scans I received from the Memphis Film Laboratory in Ohio. Overall, the camera nails the focus. There was never a time where I saw that the focus was off, and the indicator light for the focus, that green LED, comes on right away, so you can take your shots pretty quickly. There was one time where the focus was a little off, but that was on me and not the camera. In this palm photo, the focus was off on the palm, and that's probably because the camera focused on the pew in the front and not the palm, because the palm had a lot of spaces in it. So I'm going to place that on me and not the camera. Then here's a flash for an overall scene shot. It's easily illuminated the foreground and still captured the background. Here it handled a close-up portrait at night really well. The subject isn't washed out and the background is still there. This is using the automatic flash, not the slow flash, which would have illuminated the background. I also want to put these photos in, just get more of a feel of how this camera looks. The film I used for this was the Kodak Ultramax 400 film. It was a year expired. Also to note, the camera shot in ISO 400 because it's going to read box speed. So overall, this camera was a blast to shoot. It created great pictures. I enjoyed shooting it. I enjoyed the pictures I got from it. I want to also try black and white film on it. I've only done color on this so far. And it's nice to shoot it because when you open it and people see you take your shot, they're very interested in the camera and the overall process. So I think that's fun, is to get people interested. I really like the zoom capability because it does get your subject, if you're far away and you don't want to get close to the subject, and you can keep your distance. The only thing downside is the focus is a little loud, so you gotta keep that in mind. Also, the rewind feature is loud. That's my only downside, I would think, to this camera would be. But I would highly recommend this camera to anyone who wants the Olympus stylus type camera. I feel like this is a great alternative. So I hope you enjoyed my video. I hope you consider using the Nikon Lite Touch. It's a super fun camera. And if you liked the video, please like and subscribe. I do want to make more videos like this, and if there's interest, I would love to do it. Have a great day.